Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi Thorn Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke.
And if you like unbiased opinion from a different point of view, I'm a person on the autism spectrum.
And I'm going to give my opinion of someone that's not on the autism spectrum. If you like our videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell. We'll be releasing videos every week. What is the video we're doing today, Jacob?
We are doing our Moon Knight. What was wrong with Moon Knight since we just reviewed the show. So if you like this video, check out that video. I think first off, Luke, I think what they should have done is, I think the problem with the show is that it's just too confusing for the casual audience. For people like us, we like our superhero show, but for someone that doesn't watch every single show, that wanted to check it out because it looks, it looks different, and someone likes a different show, that it's very much, I love the mental health storyline, and I like the title's Moon Knight, but it's not about Moon Knight.
I think it doesn't know its target audience.
No.
It's the everyday person is probably not, that's not a super fan, probably won't enjoy it. People that really like MCU like we do, but aren't, a comic book readers that don't know every little bit about the MCU probably are still going to be missing bits. And then all you're left with is the people that absolutely love Moon Knight, the comic book, that are dying to see this come to life. And I don't know how big that fan base is and whether or not they actually liked it. Like, if we would ask someone, maybe they're like, they ruined that. They completely got it wrong. Like, I'd like to speak to someone that's read the comic books, but it's just doesn't know who its fan base is. And this may not be because of the writers. It's because it's based on a comic book. So if this is true to the comic book, maybe we should criticize the comic book itself. But Moon Knight itself is a cool idea in theory that's just they've just gotten it wrong. Like we've got the Egyptian element, that's pretty cool. We've got the mental health, split personality, that's pretty cool. We've got a cool backstory, abused as a child, brother died, was it his fault? Cool story. Avatar of a superhero, of a Egyptian god, was a mercenary, died, got brought to life. All these elements seem really cool, but when you piece it together, it's too much. It's too busy. It's a hero with too much backstory and too much going on.
Too much baggage.
Yeah, it's like, I think I said to you, it'd be like,
Batman.
Yeah, it's like we got Batman. Yeah, it's really cool. He puts his costume on, he's Batman, and during the day he's Bruce Wayne. People don't know it. But imagine if Batman and Bruce Wayne didn't know each other existed. Suddenly at night he blacks out and he starts going out and fighting crime. And then he wakes up in the morning real tired and bruised, and he's like, oh, I'm Bruce Wayne, I go to business meetings. And it's like, it's just, you've added this extra element to a story that was already cool. And then instead of fighting a normal villain, I'm going to fight another god that is doing the same thing in Avatar to another person, and they've got this really crazy idea. Like, it's just too much. And then to add in a third personality, it's just, we just need to take a bit away. It's got too much. If we pulled a bit away, it's a really cool story at the core.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the writers. You think that the fact that they had several writers is something that went wrong with it?
I think so.
Yeah. How do you think that impacted? Like, what did you notice that made you realize that this was, that the too many writers got it wrong?
Well, you could tell there was a different direction from each episode, and I think that's why episode 5 felt like the best episode. And then episode 6, it's like, it was a tough job for them because they had to tie in everything, and they did the best they could because all the other writers left them with their garbage.
Well, we kind of went on this weird journey. You know, the first episode, we're left with so much confusion, but you're like, oh, I can just tell it's going to come good. You know, there's going to be something we're going to find out in the next few episodes that's going to change everything. And then it kind of just got a bit strange and a bit boring. And then
episode 5.
And then we get episode 5 where it reveals so much. You're like, this is amazing. Like what? Like there's such a cool idea. But then they added just an extra tweak that, you know, just dropped it down a bit. And then the last episode, they're like, well, we've got to have a fight. We've got to have, you know, something. But we won't make the fight with the actual hero that the story's meant to be about. Let's make it between two gods, and they're going to be Godzilla-sized. And you know, so many strange directions they went with. And I just wonder how accurate that is to the comic book. And, you know, how it could have been written differently to make it better. Like, what is something, without completely rewriting it, you would have changed, do you think, that could have made it a bit better? Ignoring the comic book, because this is going to be obviously incorrect to the comic book. If this was a new show, no comic book previously existed, what's something you would have changed, do you think, that could have made it better?
Maybe having Mark or Steven. I don't know who I would choose between those two be the main character. I don't know who I would choose, but them being one identity and then having dreams about like a previous life or hallucinations or going through mental trauma like that, and then maybe also like getting some moments of like, oh, I'm getting bad dreams, and then like getting hallucinations about seeing this Moon Knight character, and then going through the emotions, and then like gradually like realizing I'm a superhero.
Yeah. I've got a big grand scheme of how I think I would rewrite it, but I won't go into that. But if I could change one little thing, well, I guess you could see the mage thing, but just without tweaking too much, I think I like the idea of, you know, we created this second person to deal with trauma from his mother's death, and then sneakily there's a third character that they disguise, but obviously through his life he would have had moments where he becomes this third personality. But they can disguise that. That's cool. That's a late reveal. So we just have that. We've got 3 personalities. And then, you know what? He dies.
Mark dies.
Yeah, he goes to this afterlife. Well, whichever one got shot in the show. And he goes to this afterlife. And then in there, they start to discover secrets about themselves. And they realise, you know, we're the same person. Like, Steven starts to realise that he is Mark. And Mark created him. And you're like, that's cool, we're discovering something really cool. Then maybe when they're going through all these rooms and discovering these memories, they're seeing memories, they're like, I don't remember that. Do you remember that? And then maybe, you know, this Jack character then also comes out. Like, why was he not in the afterlife? Why was there not 3 hearts on the scale? Like, if there's 3 personalities, how does that work?
Don't know.
So maybe he comes out, like, you know, she pulls the hearts out and she's like, well, there's one missing. You're like, this is imbalanced. So then they realise she's like, you need to go in there, you need to look at your memories, try and piece things together. And they like realise, oh, there's another person. So then maybe they then have a fight outside, but, you know, the fight is between Jack and Mark and Steve. And he's like, you know, I'm the real you. This is who we need to become. And they're like, no, not this. And, you know, then, you know, Steven sacrifices himself for Mark. And then because of that, you know, Jack and Steven fall off and they die. And then Mark's left. And that's just symbolises he's let go of the emotional baggage of these personalities he's created.
Forgiveness.
So he's forgiven it. He's came balanced. He's gone to the afterlife. And, he's got the message that, you know, I need to go back. Like I need to be brought back to life in order to save what's going on. So then he comes back to life. He's just one personality now, and he now has Khonshu on his side, and he can come Moon Knight at will, and he saves the world. And then he is required as needed when more villains come about. And we just we let go of this storyline of the personalities, you know, he is not required anymore. He's let go of that baggage. It required the afterlife for him to realize it and admit that, you know, I didn't kill my brother, my mother wasn't great, you know, just like, and that's a cool symbolization of mental health. But now we assume that he is now set to have 3 personalities for the rest of his life, opposed to a success story where he's, through exploring your past, you can let go of it. You know, like that. That's a cool story. Just a little tweak, and they could have kept everything else the same.
Yeah, that's less confusing for the audience.
Yeah, and that's a really cool story where now we're like these so distinct. The personalities are so distinct that it's like he has to, you know, swap between them, and he doesn't remember what the other one did. Or are they trying to play the fact that each one has its own ability? You know, like Jack's the dangerous one that can get them out of situations. Steven's the smart one. And Mark, well, he was meant to be the strong one and the one that was well trained. It seems like Jack's better than him. So what is Steven? Like, now what is the purpose of Mark anymore?
Well, he was the mercenary.
Yeah, well, he's the original, but he seems to be less. It seems like Jack does a better job at what he's meant to do than he does. I also don't like that every time there was a fight scene or something tricky, he just like Jack took over and we didn't get to see him get out of that situation. It's like it's like a cheap way of going, we're not even going to show you how he wins this fight. We're just going to skip it and there's bodies on the floor. And it's like, oh, we deserve to see that, you know? So that's my little tweak. What else do you think could have made this show better, or what made it bad?
Do you feel like we needed the wife in this show? Like, I don't know. Basically, her storyline is that I was Mark's wife. Mark went on a mission, or my dad was with Mark, and then my husband was not answering my calls, and then my dad's dead, and then she's just miserable, and then she says yes to a different avatar, and then realizes that her dad is proud of her because she became an avatar. Like, to me, that's just a silly story.
Well, it's an overly complex story again. This is a show about being more complex than it needs. You've got this, that again, they try to make the story intense. Like, she fell in love with Mark and married Mark, but she only knows Mark because Mark killed her dad, and he went to seek after her to kind of like apologize. And, you know, like, she's been in love with her dad's killer this whole time. Like, that's a show in itself. Like, that's not a side story. That's like an origin story. And then she is, you know, Egyptian and archaeologist kind of, she can fight, you know, and she then, not wanting to, becomes an avatar for a god that I didn't realize required an avatar.
The hippo.
Yeah, and through that she gets a cool suit and powers, but she seems to have control over that, when Mark and Steven don't. And she must have a name, and it must be something cool in the comic books, but they really wanted to emphasize the fact when the little girl's like, oh, you're an Egyptian superhero. And it's like, I'm an Egyptian superhero. Like, they want to, like, they're trying to tick a box, you know, like Egyptian superhero, like, we've had, you know, we added an Indian hero in the Eternals, and we've added this in here. Like, it's about time we go Egyptian. Like, they got to change it up. They got to tick all the diversity boxes, because not every hero can be from America. You know, you got to change it up a bit. So that was, she's just an odd storyline, and didn't get enough explanation, but had a large impact. Like, there was too much to her story to not acknowledge, but they failed to acknowledge it. They're like, yeah.
And the villain as well, like, he doesn't really have an interesting storyline. Or what makes him cool is that he was the predecessor to the avatar that Mark took after from, and now he just hates his avatar. Now he wants to take the different side, so everyone believes what he says whenever he's in the room, because of some reasons for the writers to make him believe.
Well, they didn't unpack. They mentioned that he was the avatar for Khonshu, but they didn't explain why he no longer is and why he originally became the avatar. It doesn't explain how he gets these followers and how many followers he has. It doesn't explain why he has this tattoo that can move and it's a scale. Like, where does he get that? Why does the staff have powers? They say that the powers come from this god that he wants to bring back to life. But why does he require the amulet to find this god? When he introduces himself to the god has no idea who he is, but somehow he had powers that god gave him. How did the god give him powers that the god didn't know who he was? Like, that doesn't add up, and he's devoted his life to this mission. It's just a bit strange. Again, it's like they try to give him a really epic motive, but it's not. Yeah. It's like they try to make a cooler story out of what it was, and then, it's, again, potential wasted with so many parts of this show.
Did you buy that in every scene he gives all these speeches and he's like, when there's like an action scene happening when his tribesmen were engaged with like the Indian or the Egyptian army, he's like, don't shoot, everything's okay.
Yeah, you think they would just shoot at him. And the fact that he banged his staff and then it made, it deemed that these military people all had unbalanced souls.
Except for one.
Yeah, and so they went off so they all died. And then, but his mercenaries that he's hired stuff, they're all balanced. They don't buy it. They're out there killing people. How's that balanced?
Like, I don't know.
Like, it confuses me with that.
Are we supposed to believe because he's a religious man that believes in a god that's why people... I just didn't buy that. It's like a politician saying his words and we just believe in him. It's like, you can think for yourself.
Yeah, and I guess you go back to the first episode when they see him in this like weird kind of like German town, and he's like, I'm cleansing souls. And, like, why would that happen in real life? If some man walks up, like, don't worry, I'm cleansing the world, come to me, and like everyone's like, yeah, okay, I'll line up. I'll line up for this. I want to find out if I'm going to die or not.
And he killed someone.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. It's, again, potential, but written in a way that, ruined it. And I'm going to blame the comic book. I think you can only, if you don't have a cool story to tell, then how do you make it cool? You'd have to change it. I don't think they were going to do that. So I think Marvel picked a subpar hero just to tick the diversity box, and so they ran with it. And I just think it wasn't cool. It's kind of like, you don't think that Captain Marvel's that great of a hero, and you think Miss Marvel looks, like they're...
I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, but they're kind of targeting a teen audience. Again, it's just trying to tick boxes. They just want to, make sure that they've every audience. And like I bet you Moon Knight is like the #1 show in Egypt right now. Because it's Egyptian, like they're just trying to go, well, it's another audience. It's like Shang-Chi. I thought Shang-Chi was a pretty average movie, but it's like, like China's a big market. Marvel need to get into China. Let's pick out a Chinese hero. It's just just ticking boxes. Opposed to just going, what is good? They just got to tick a box.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this show is. I think it's a subpar hero just making the show because they can. It's going to make money. They've got their own streaming service. They can't lose. So let's just tick every box and do everything we can.
Do you feel like as well that 3 personalities is too much for people? Because I feel like that reveal that Jack was behind it all, it's like, well, we had the moment of Mark and Steve and liking each other. It's like we got that moment, and then it's like, oh no, Jack was the evil one. It's like, is Jack the villain? The mastermind of it?
Well, it all falls apart now after we've talked about it, that they had 3 personalities from early on. Like, there was parts that neither of them remembered, so it was planting the seed, there's a personality. Not until the end did we realise that. But why was there only the 2 personalities in the afterlife? That is the ultimate flaw. If they had 3 personalities before then why is there only 2 at that moment?
I don't know.
It doesn't add up. It's the biggest flaw in the whole show, that when you think about it, that it completely debunks the whole idea that there's three personalities.
Well, in the afterlife, we do see Jack's tomb there, but his heart wasn't there.
Mm. So yeah, it's very odd. It's an odd way of writing it.
Mm.
Any more complaints about this show?
I still don't understand why the gods listen to Arthur, and then they got their just deserves when he comes in and then goes, "Ugh," and then destroys them. It's like you listen to him and then you.
Well, they seem quite weak, don't they? Like why can't they fight back? Their gods too.
Yeah.
And what gods were they? Like, they obviously weren't important gods.
I think one was Anubis and one was Horus or something.
Yeah, so they must be, I'm sure there's lots of Egyptian gods. So they picked ones that aren't that powerful. Like, it's not, I'm guessing Osiris is like the god of the gods. Like that he seems to be the one that decided who came back to life and who didn't. So there's, they picked odd gods and didn't explain who they are and why they chose those ones. It was just purely like, here's the temple of the gods. I also thought it was strange how easily they found these relics. They went and they'd dig something up, they'd go into these tombs. It's like this is Egypt, right? Like, no one else has gone into these tombs. Like, no one else has walked in and gone, oh, I think that's Alexander the Great's tomb. Like, you're the first person to ever go there. Like, no, that would not happen. And if that was a pyramid or tomb that already existed, there would definitely be like military or something stopping you from just going in there.
Yeah.
There's this plot hole after plot hole.
So I guess final question: Do we think it needs a season 2 with the ending? It definitely ends on a cliffhanger because we want to know about Jack's personality, seeing the action scenes that they just went, bam, we're not going to show you. So I guess that will show his perspective. I guess Jack will be the main character, but
it's iffy. If they don't, I'm fine. I think the ending, it ended it. It's ended. Yes, there's more. There could be more to come, but it's ended it. I'm happy with that. No more Moon Knight. But if they do make another season, then it has its chance to explain every plot hole and flaw that we've found in the season 1, which is a bit sad that you need to make additional seasons to explain a whole nother season. Like, that's an odd way of doing things.
Isn't that bad storytelling?
I think so. I think it is overall bad storytelling. So what do you think? Happy with one season, or you want a second one?
I think how they ended it, they make you want a season 2, but shouldn't they just wrapped up season 1 properly?
I think the opposite. I think if you don't see the end credits scene, you go, well, there's got to be a season 2 because, the villain's still out there. But then when you see the end credits scene, he gets killed, you go, well, that answers my question. He's not still out there. Like that, it closes. It either opens the new chapter by seeing Jack, or it closes the whole thing by going, well, there's no more villain anymore, so that's the end of it. So it's really a matter of which way you look at it. It can be the start or the end. And is that good writing? I don't know.
Well, thank you for watching the video. We are the Obi Thorn Alliance with different opinions. Someone on the person on the autism spectrum and someone not. Like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Let the force be with you. Bye-bye.